welcome back to Barley and Hops. Today I got a really quick one for you. We're going to do a couple things, but the primary purpose of this one is we're going to talk about using anti-foam agent in your still and surface tension. So that's our purpose. But before I get to that, I want to show you something. Now we ran the Turbo 500 yesterday. We got almost 2 gallons. I ran a couple of batches while we were up here. So the next video we do is going to be, cutting that down and then trying to age that. And I've got some really interesting things that I want to introduce to you for options for your flavoring and conditioning. All right, but real quick, I don't know if you've heard about this before or not, but we use them around the Duncan household when we're having parties out back. It's a mosquito trap. Everybody knows those pesky mosquitoes are out there. So I take a water bottle, cut it in half, you just turn it upside down. That's what's going to happen. Let's pour some water in here. And I think everybody knows that mosquitoes are super attracted to CO2. Well, you know what one of the byproducts is of yeast when they're eating sugars? CO2 and ethyl alcohol. Now, we're not going to drink any of this, but I put some corn sugar in there, and I put a hefty amount. Now, remember, I'm not worried about a hydrometer reading or a refractometer or anything. And I'm going to use a spoon here, and I'm going to grab some distiller's yeast. And I'm not really worried about how much. It doesn't take a whole lot. But I'm going to put a little bit of distiller's yeast in there. And then we're going to shake that up. And then we're going to let that yeast get to going. I'll put the cap on upside down. So what you have here now is you've got a mosquito trap. What will happen is all this CO2 will start to be released from the yeast that are eating the sugars. It'll go out. Your mosquitoes will go in because they're attracted to it. If you put your fermenter out back, you got bugs all over it. They'll go down inside, and then they go to the sidewalls and they get trapped. So this is just a small mosquito trap, and you can put a couple of them around the corners of the patio or wherever. All right, let's get down. But this is a really neat thing to have. It'll last just as long as it takes that yeast to eat that sugar. All right, let's get on to business now. Well, we talk about, a lot of times I've had some questions about using the anti-foam agent and whether it's a requirement or not. Here's what really happens. Now, 2 things can take place inside a still that you may or may not be familiar with, and we call it puking or burping or something like that. And the first thing that will cause that to happen is if you don't have enough headroom for that vapor to develop and to start to work up your column. That's one. So if you don't have enough headroom, you're definitely going to probably get what we call a puke. And what I mean by that is outside of your condenser, it'll start to drip, and then all of a sudden it'll just push out, and you'll have almost a full flow. So that's what it's doing. You'll get a vapor lock in the column. All kind of things take place, and you're starting to wonder what's going on. That's one thing that'll cause that. The second thing that could potentially cause that is the surface tension in your water or in your mash. And we know that the surface tension, the molecules in that mash at the surface are more attracted to each other side by side than they are down inside your mash. Down inside your mash, they're equally attracted to each other all around. But at the top, they're more attracted to each other, which gives you what's called surface tension. Now, to further explain surface tension, what do you think detergent does or soap does? What it really does is it breaks the surface tension of the water and makes the water more wet. So therefore it can move in and out in through some of your webs and weaves and threads, and it does a better job of cleaning. The other thing that helps in surface tension is heat. So if you have heat and soap, the surface tension is gone and it makes the water that much more wet. Now what that does also, when you think about it in a still, it prevents it from bubbling. Because if you have a really high surface tension area, those bubbles start to form, and then they'll cascade on top of each other. And then finally what you'll get is you'll get a burp, or you'll get a vapor lock, and then you'll get a push and a burp. So we want to prevent that. Now it doesn't happen every time. It can normally take place when you've got some residual sugars left in your wash, and it goes into your still. That's one time that'll potentially happen. Another time is when you're using fruits. Because they are so complex, and there are some leftover complex sugars there, that surface tension is real tight. So I'm going to demonstrate for you real quick about this surface tension idea. And what I'll offer you is that I've got 2 agents here. One of them is a powder form, and you can put it in during fermentation, or I like to put it in just as I'm filling the still up. I just add it in and just stir it. And it's the same thing with this anti-foam. Now this is a liquid. It's 1/5 of a teaspoon per batch. And what I do is I just open the still up, I add everything, and I just pour a little bit in there, and then I stir it, and everything works out fine. Now, I use it routinely only because I don't know necessarily if I've got too much surface tension or if I don't. So it's sort of, it's one of those, it's better to have and not need than need and not have. Let me demonstrate for you how this works though, because we're going to use pepper, and I've got a plate here, and this plate is just, it's got a little bit of water in it, and I'm going to show you how surface tension affects, or how surface tension is affected. So let me get set up here real quick, and we'll be back in probably about 2 seconds. Okay, now this is just a plate, and I've got a little bit of water here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle some pepper on top of it. Because you can see the pepper, and you know the pepper is going to float. Now you've probably done this as a kid too. You've had like a paper clip you can balance, or a small piece of paper. That works as well. I mean, you could do that. But let's take just a small drop of dish detergent on the tip of my finger, and I'm going to touch it in the center, and watch what happens. You notice all that pepper separate? Well, that was the surface tension of the water has just been changed. Very minutely, but it's changed, and it just goes to go out. Now you can see there, you can see it start moving around, and every time I touch it in a place, a little bit of the tension is removed. So that's what I wanted to show you, and that's what your anti-foam agent can do inside your still. And it works within the mash itself, and it works based on heat. So if you have any questions, please give us a call at 254-681-1760. Of course, like us on Facebook. Check out our website. I'm still working on a good one, but the one we have is fairly adequate. And if you would, please just go ahead and subscribe, or have a friend subscribe. Just check us out. Send us notes. You know we always answer. Until next time, happy brewing and distilling.